Hey guys, Bravo here. I wanted to do a video on my 75-gallon Mbuna tank. This video is going to be for anyone who's new in the hobby that's maybe looking to set up a tank this size, but mainly it's going to be for anyone who's looking to set up a nice Mbuna tank. So we're going to be covering things like substrate, backgrounds, filtration, also cleaning supplies that you may want to consider. So I'm going to be taking you all through the tank and all through the equipment that I'm using. So hopefully I'll have some tips and advice that'll help you with your setup. And I'm also going to be giving you reviews on some of the equipment that I'm using. So let's get started and we'll take a little tour of the tank. Alright, so the basic package was purchased at Big Al's here in Canada. It included a marine land aquarium, and the dimensions of the aquarium are 48 inches wide by 18 inches deep by 20 inches high. It also included a wood stand, glass tops, and just your standard fluorescent strip light. So you will first need to set up your stand and aquarium on a nice level surface, and your next step will be to add a background if you do choose to have one. So we're going to talk about that next. Alright, so let's talk about your options when it comes to aquarium backgrounds. I'm going to talk about 3 different types of backgrounds, how you install them, and my general opinion of them. The first one we're going to start off with is an aquarium cling, which I have on this tank here. Basically all you do is spray the back of the tank with water and you apply the background, and you just use something like a credit card to squeegee all the water out, and the background just sticks to the tank. I've had pretty good success with these backgrounds. I've had a couple on this tank. This is a 36 gallon. I haven't had any issues with them peeling off or anything like that. I'm not sure if you can get them for a bigger tank or how well they'd work, but for something along this size, 36 gallon, 29 gallon, I would definitely recommend this. They seem to work pretty well. So moving on to the next type. Alright, so another option you have is your standard aquarium wrap. I have it installed with just a couple pieces of 2-way tape on the back here. My biggest gripe with this is you do tend to get air pockets in between the glass and the background, so it doesn't look as nice as some of the other ones. You do have options. You can use this Sea View aquarium cling. I've tried it, and I actually tried it on my 75 gallon over there, and it worked great for about 2 weeks, looked really good, and then it started to peel off. So I ended up having to take the whole tank apart because you can't repair it without taking the background back off and reapplying it. So I actually don't recommend this Sea View stuff. It's kind of a waste of money, and what I ended up doing is when I broke the tank down, I ended up painting the back on. So that's what I'm going to talk about next. Here's my main tank, and it has a painted background. I actually used this Rust-Oleum Painter's Touch flat black. It's an easy cleanup latex, and it worked great. Looks really good. It was easy to put on. I just used a little foam roller and a painter's tray. So this method I highly recommend, especially if you want just a standard color on the back. Very durable. If you ever have any chips, you can just get in there with a little brush and touch it up, but I haven't had any issues myself. So took me 3 coats on this tank, and I think it looks great. So that's my take on the aquarium backgrounds. Let's move on to the next section. Also, one thing I wanted to point out, and I can show you with this tank, is in my big 75, I also have this, but it's an egg crate material on the bottom. It's also called light diffuser. I think I picked this one up at, you can pick it up at Rona or Home Depot. I think it cost about $15, but I cut it up to fit the size of the tank, and it's just good for supporting the weight of the rocks, because especially if you're using stuff like slate or limestone, it gets pretty heavy, and that just kind of protects the bottom of the tank. So something else for you to consider. So you have many options when it comes to substrate and decorations for your tank. Mbuna in the wild live along sandy shores and among the rocks in Lake Malawi. So many people choose to just use regular play sand, and you can pick that up at any TSC or building supply store in your area. In my tank, I'm using pool filter sand, and you can pick that up at any pool supply store. It works really well, and the fish love digging through it. So as for rocks in my tank, I'm using red lava rock, and this is just stuff that I've pieced together through people that are selling it, and I've also picked some of it up from my local fish store. It's pretty cheap rock, and it stacks great, makes great caves for your fish. Other options you may want to consider are river rock, slate, and limestone. These also look really nice in your tank and make great caves for your fish. It's time to talk about the heart of the operation, which is the filtration. But first I wanted to point out the type of heater that I'm using in this tank. It's an Eheim Jaeger 200 watt fully submersible heater. I'm actually a really big believer in the Eheim products. I've had no problems with them at all, and I think they build a really good product. They have excellent reviews on the internet for just about anything that they make. I have my tank set at 79 degrees, and this heater does an excellent job of keeping the tank that temperature. There are other brands out there that are very good as well. So, you know, if you're in the market for a heater, I definitely recommend this one. But again, ask around or check reviews on the internet, and you'll find other products that are also just as good. So let's move on to the filtration. So you do have a couple different options when it comes to filters for your aquarium. On these two little 10s, I'm using hang-on back filters. They're both made by AquaClear, and there are a couple other good manufacturers out there that make pretty good hang-on backs. People do use them in larger tanks, such as the 75 and up. A couple little things about the hang-on backs. I do find them a little bit noisy, and you also have to have your tank pushed out from the wall a little bit, just so you have room to set up your filter and get back there to do your maintenance on the filter. So just a couple little things to point out, but they are definitely a good option for your tank. And another appealing thing about them is they're a lot cheaper than buying a canister filter. So if you're on a bit of a budget, you can find filters like these that are big enough for your 75 gallon and up, and they do quite a good job at filtering the tank and keeping your fish healthy. So another option is to go with a canister filter, and I actually have two running on this tank. So let's have a look here. Both my filters are Eheims. This is an Eheim 2217, and this one is an Eheim 2213. This one I actually saved from another tank that I sold recently. So these filters are very highly recommended, have a great track record, great reviews on the internet. The design has been around for a really long time. Some people may say that they're a little bit more cumbersome to clean. Some of the newer designs have little pull-out trays that make them a little more user-friendly, but you're only going to be cleaning these every 6 or 7 months. Like, these have been running for 6 months on my tank, and the flow rate is still great. So, you know, you only clean them once the flow rate starts to go down. So yeah, those are excellent filters. I highly recommend them. One thing I wanted to point out about these filters, when I went into my local fish store, they have a tank set up. It's a 110 gallon tank. They have one Eheim 2217 running, and they have 28 peacocks or haps in the tank. I'm actually Not sure what kind they are because I'm not really familiar with that type of fish, but that's all the filtration that they ever use in that tank. So really with what I have here, it's a little bit overkill. That's not a bad thing, but if you're gonna set up a 75, I think going with just the one Eheim would be a great choice. So moving on, I'm gonna show you how I have the plumbing set up on my filters. So for the 2217, I have the intake set up over here, and I have the spray bar set up on the same side with the flow of water pointing to the top of the tank, and that gives me really good surface agitation. That introduces oxygen into your tank, and that kind of eliminates the need for things like bubble walls and air stones. You can use them in your setup if you like them, that's totally up to you. But as long as you have good surface agitation, it's not really necessary. So moving along to this side, kind of the same idea. I have my intake here for the 2213, spray bar on the same side, and the direction for the flow of the water is pointing down towards the bottom of the tank, and that does a pretty good job of pushing all the waste down to this side of the tank where it's sucked up by the intake on the 2217. One thing you may want to consider if you don't have two canister filters, you may want to add a power head to your tank just to agitate all the water at the bottom of the tank and keep all the waste from collecting underneath your rocks. So just to wrap up the discussion on filtration, I wanted to point out how amazingly quiet these Eheim filters are. I have this set up in my living room and I can't hear the filters running at all. I also wanted to mention that canister filters have a very large media capacity, and they do an excellent job of keeping your water clean and keeping your fish happy and healthy. Alright guys, we've had a chance to go through my tank. I've showed you all the equipment that I'm using. My advice for anyone who's just starting out is to take your time, do a little research, use the internet. There's lots of forums out there, lots of good stuff on YouTube. Talk to people at your local fish store. Mbuna are semi-aggressive and they need a rather large tank to establish territory and also to have hiding places from the more aggressive fish. So I really wouldn't recommend anything smaller than a 55 to get started. Anyway, let's move on and we'll talk about some of the cleaning equipment that I use on my tank. Alright, so I have everything pulled out that I use to clean my tank. It's always handy to have a couple of pails, and I use these to rinse the media from my canister filters. So I just fill them up with a little bit of water from the tank, just using this little manual gravel vac here. I also have a couple of cleaning brushes, and I like to use these just to clean the hoses from my canister filter. And to do my weekly water changes, it's something you'll probably want to invest in if you have a large tank. I have a 50-foot python here. These also come in 25-foot lengths, but fortunately the 25-footer was just a little bit short to reach my tap. But this works pretty good at cleaning your gravel or your sand and changing your water. I also have a couple cleaning cloths, and I just use these to wipe the algae off the sides of the tank. The big thing I wanted to point out was I have this tote here, and it's actually on wheels, so it's great for storing all my cleaning equipment. But what I mainly use it for is the big cleanup on my tank. I use it to hold all the rocks when I take all the rocks out of the tank, and I can just wheel it out of the way, do my cleanup, and set it back over here and put all the rocks back in my tank, and works really well to keep everything organized. So for water changes on this tank, I'm doing about a 30-35% water change weekly, along with a gravel vac, and about every 2 to 3 weeks I take all the rocks out and I do a complete gravel vac of the sand. Alright, so that's going to just about wrap things up. Mbuna are a great fish to keep. They have beautiful color and loads of personality. I really enjoyed making this video, and I hope you got something out of it. So thanks a lot for watching. Please don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe. And we'll see you next time.